Comic Boom here to review Justice League number 10 and Aquaman number 41, which is a tie-in to Justice League because this begins the Drowned Earth storyline. This is it's going to basically cover, I think it's going to cover a total of 8 issues. This is a storyline that ends at the end of November. So this Drowned storyline, this is going to be it looks to be potentially a pretty epic arc. And it's all premised on a very simple idea, and that is, well, exactly like the title makes it sound, it's about drowning the Earth. Now, what would cause the Earth to be drowned? Well, what has happened, again, this is all flowing down from the breakdown of the Source Wall, which is the source of all of DC comic book hero woes right now. When the Source Wall broke, all sorts of chaos happened, and as part of the 7 deadly forces that were released, one of them, Cheetah ended up with. And the Cheetah ended up with something called the Tear of Extinction. And she used the Tear of Extinction to literally tear into the god Poseidon, who is the god of the sea. Now, one thing about the Tear of Extinction is that it can actually kill a god. Poseidon normally has the power to heal himself from any wound, as most all gods do. Well, Poseidon, though, could not heal himself from being killed by the Cheetah. And the Cheetah wanted to kill Poseidon because it was one of Wonder Woman's gods that Wonder Woman is quite fond of, and she just did it to spite Wonder Woman. And because Cheetah well, that's just who Cheetah is. And the consequence of that is Poseidon is essentially, he held the key to the graveyard of the gods. And the graveyard of the gods, contained in the graveyard of the gods, were basically forces that were essentially keeping the older gods of the sea at bay, or rather the older gods, or shall we say invaders of Atlantis from millions of years ago, when Orion, Lord of Atlantis, ruled the sea. And I remember collecting Orion, Lord of Atlantis comic book series. Orion, Lord of Atlantis, he was one of the very first rulers of Atlantis, and he repelled some invaders that invaded Atlantis, and he basically banished them essentially to another dimension. But now they're back, and they're back now because Poseidon, over the centuries, between Poseidon and the various things that he had set in place, as well as some, I'm assuming, some sorcery that Orion had in place before he died, there were various, between magic and the power of Poseidon, they were keeping the invaders at bay from never once again invading Atlantis. Now, the graveyard of the gods is actually a legend that even Wonder Woman herself admits she never put much stock in. She never really believed it. And I'm going to have to read it here to get it right. There's a legend, she says, I never put much stock in, that the key to the graveyard of gods lies hidden in the belly of an ancient ship locked away by Poseidon. Now, Poseidon had a lot of... When Poseidon was killed, as he lay dying, he sent a message to basically the Justice League, a message to Aquaman, and basically telling him to look for the graveyard of the gods. And one way to do that is Poseidon apparently has all these smaller bottled ships, and the closer these bottled ships get to the graveyard of the gods, well, they light up the closer they get to the source, which is the graveyard of the gods. And this graveyard of the gods, it's a graveyard of gods where all slain or forgotten gods go. It's kind of like their Hades, or Hades. And Aquaman figures that when Poseidon's human host body was killed, that he had hoped that Poseidon had simply switched to another host, which he would have the ability to do if his one host body died. But the Tear of Extinction killed him. And so, if that's the case, then if whoever has the power to do that, namely one of these 7 deadly forces, if Poseidon is no longer the gatekeeper of the graveyard of the gods, then what's going to happen? Are we going to get invaded? What's going to happen? That was the concern. And of course, what's great here is that it is indeed an invasion. And Aquaman doesn't realize, they go to the graveyard of the gods. It appears to be this older ship. They're attacked by this kraken, and this kraken-like creature that's made of a strange liquid that a firestorm determines has transformative molecular properties, and you change it the minute this liquid that emanates from this Kraken monster touches you, it transforms you into like an awful looking sea creature. And as this is happening, all the earth is slowly being flooded. There's a massive flooding that's taking place worldwide while these interstellar and dimensional forces are invading the earth, led by three people that initially Orion, Lord of Atlantis, banished many years before. And these three people are Captain Gull, Commander Drogue, and Fleet Admiral Tide. And apparently they have a goal of they want to take over and destroy, essentially, they want to flood the earth. Now, it's a little bit odd, these forces led by Captain Gull. Captain Gull and his two compatriots, Fleet Admiral Tide and Commander Drogue, they show up through this portal, because when the Kraken shows up, he sucks out Aquaman and Wonder Woman into this portal, and they introduce themselves. And meanwhile, they also have sent this fleet in from space. So not only are they attacking through a wormhole, I guess, contained in this Kraken creature, but also they also have a space fleet. It seems rather odd that somebody who, if they have a space fleet, they can invade the Earth. Why are they bothering to flood the Earth? I don't. And they're not even really killing the inhabitants. Everything's just getting transformed. Everybody's getting transformed into monsters. So no one's really dying. They're just being transformed, and the Earth's being flooded. And well, I guess it just seems rather like an odd thing for a conquering alien species to do, especially since they kind of look like humans. They kind of look like gods themselves, or godlike, or human-looking gods. So it's a little odd. I'm not really sure what the agenda is there, but it's pretty cool. It's a lot of action happening in here. It's a lot of fun to read. Meanwhile, in the pages of Aquaman, Mera is trying to save Atlantis, and Mera's using her aqua telekinetic abilities to keep the water at bay, and she's very powerful. You see really how powerful Mera is in the pages of Aquaman 41, and she impresses Batman because she actually keeps the flooding earth waters from overwhelming Atlantis. Because you got to remember that Atlantis has risen. Atlantis is no longer at the bottom of the sea. Atlantis has actually risen above the waters now, and it's being flooded again. And she's trying to prevent the flooding, and she's almost successful at it, except for the fact that it's a losing battle because the entire planet's being flooded, and it was only a matter of time before these interstellar forces, led by Captain Gull, eventually they attacked Atlantis, and of course that broke Mera's concentration. So Atlantis is pretty much a write-off now. It's completely flooded. Most all of the people of Atlantis have been transformed into these creatures as a result of this this liquid that seems to be emanated by this Kraken creature that has transformative molecular properties. Yeah, so a lot of excitement. So much has happened. This is really like, we're hitting the ground running here, guys. I mean, Justice League 10 just bang, bang, bang. By the end of Justice League 10, all of a sudden the entire Earth's being flooded with waters. And then right away into Aquaman, where Mera is doing her best, but it's a losing battle. This is a really fun series. Justice League is being drawn, it's great art in Justice League. Scott Snyder, the writer, Francis Manapul on the art of Justice League. I mean, the art's just absolutely gorgeous. And Tom Napolitano is on letters. Jim Lee, Scott Williams, and Alex Sinclair did the variant cover. And then in the pages of Aquaman, got to give a shout out to the artist. The art is really fantastic as well. Writers Dan Abnett, pencils by Lan Medina, inks by Vincent Cifuentes, and colors by Gabe El-Taib, and letters by Steve Wands. And the cover by Riccardo Federici. Really beautiful cover. Guys, this is really turning into an epic arc, and it's going to be 8 issues. And what's great about this is that it seems like it's going to be, I think, almost weekly again. I mean, I love the fact that we're getting these quick events that are so timely. We're not waiting too long between issue to issue. This is just a lot of fun. Scott Snyder's done a great job here, and so has Dan Abnett and going back between Justice League and Aquaman is such a great idea. And I love they're doing the same thing with Wonder Woman, with Witching Hour, going back and forth between Witching Hour and Wonder Woman. When the Source Wall broke down, I really thought it was going to be a one-hit sort of plot wonder, so to speak, that all of a sudden everything's going to be so dark, and they're abusing the source wall as a plot device. But I'm actually enjoying it. They're being very creative with their plots, more creative than I originally gave them credit for, because this is pretty good. This is a lot of fun. So guys, check out Aquaman. I give this an 8 out of 10. And Aquaman, I'll give it an 8.5 because I like the art a little bit better, and I just love Mira kicking some ass, or at least trying to, even in failure. She's awesome to watch and to read. So guys, check out Justice League and Aquaman. Again, Justice League 10 and Aquaman issue 41. It's part 1 and 2 of the Drowned storyline. And hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at Metropolis40, and Comic Boom out.